Hey there guys. Okay, insurance billing can be so confusing. So I want to break down just a few of the main points here so that you guys understand kind of where the charges are, what the allowables are, and how that all comes into play. So I have my little whiteboard here. So we're going to go to school. All right. So insurance, usually people have an 80-20 plan, patients. So that means that insurance covers 80% of covered costs and the patient's co-insurance portion is 20%. So let's say, as an example, there was a $100 allowable. The doctor would get a check from insurance for 80 bucks, 80% of that $100, and the patient would be responsible for 20% of that $100 or 20 bucks. So the doctor would send the patient a bill for $20. Let's see how that breaks down a little bit. So there is a charge that all of the offices will charge for any of their services, ultrasound included. And usually that usual and customary charge is 2 to 3 times the Medicare allowable. Okay, each insurance has their own allowable. Now we can look those insurance allowables up for Medicare online. And the unfortunate part is we can't look the exact allowables up for private insurance, but we know industry average is about 115 to 118% of the Medicare allowable. It can be lower, it can be higher, but that's a good customary average, all right? So for easy math here for me, I'm gonna say there's a $100 Medicare allowable as an example. Now, if the doctor's office is setting their charges and we're doing 2 to 3 times the Medicare rate, they can do anywhere between $200 and $300 as their actual charge for the ultrasound. So I'm gonna say it's 300, 3 times the Medicare's $100 allowable. Does that make sense? Now, as I mentioned earlier, each insurance has their own allowable. So Medicare's allowable may be $100. Blue Cross Blue Shield may have a contract with that doctor for $280 as an example for their allowable. Cigna may have a contract for that same ultrasound at $160 as an allowable. And Aetna may have a contract with that doctor as an example for $120. So you can see they vary greatly. Now, that's why though they create a charge of $300. Because if the Medicare allowable is $100 and they're only charging $100, Blue Cross Blue Shield isn't going to pay them $280. If they send in a charge for $100, they're going to send them $100. So that's why the charge is higher than the allowables. That way, Medicare is paying $100, Blue Cross Blue Shield's paying $280, Cigna's paying $160, and Aetna's paying $120. Now, they'll likely pay it as part of an 80-20 plan where the patient would pay 80% of whatever their plan allowed, and the 20% would then be owed by the patient. So the next question I get is, where does that extra money go? If the allowable is $300, but Medicare only pays $100, where does that $200 go? Does the patient owe that? Where does that go? It doesn't go anywhere. It poof disappears. So this is an actual made up arbitrary number. I know that doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't make logical sense, but that's how it works. And this is one of the most confusing parts. So if you can get that down, all of this will make a lot more sense to you. So just as a recap, each insurance has their own allowable that they contract with the physicians for. We can look up Medicare allowables online, but private insurance allowables are per physician in their contracts. And so the average, just to give you an idea, is about 115 to 118% of the Medicare allowable, although that can differ. So the doctor's office will set a charge that's usually about 2 to 3 times the Medicare rate so that they can encompass all of these different payables that they're going to be getting back so that they ensure they get their highest amount of their allowable back. The balance doesn't go anywhere. It's just written off. It disappears. Let me know if you have any questions.